And now, from Pasadena, it's CCN Sunrise with Sehnita Joshua Mattison, Paulo Alejandria, the Crown City News team, and the CCN Sunrise segment stars. It's time to wake up San Gabriel Valley with CCN Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to CCN Sunrise. We have a great show for you planned. Bill Cott's back to talk with the Morning Buzz about the Adrian Peterson controversy and racism charges from a movie actress. I'm Sehnita Joshua Mattison.
And I'm Paulo Alejandria. We'll also be talking to one of our very own, Scott Turner, about firing off muskets with the Mountain Men. Should be exciting.
Well, earlier this morning, our director Charles and Scott, our cameraman, were driving by the Apple store, and there were long lines, blocks.
The streets are full of activity, especially around Old Town Pasadena, because of the release of the iPhone 6.
iPhone, they are camping out for their iPhone. Take a look at this video of all the people that are lined up, about 500 folks lined up there. Paulo, would you ever stand outside for an iPhone that long? Or anything?
You know, I like gadgets. I don't think I would ever do anything that extreme, but yeah, I think I'm one of those guys who'll probably wait a month before I update or whatever.
You know, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
one thing, like, you know, I have camped out for, you know, concerts and things like that, for Lollapalooza back in the day, but if it's going to be there tomorrow, I'll get it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
But today is the official release date, September 19th,
Some
Friday.
people just want to be the first ones amongst their friends on their block, you know.
That moment of glory.
Yeah, so it's definitely cool. Well, on that note, let's take a look at some of the news and headlines making news right here in the San Gabriel Valley.
And now, CCN, Crown City News. Your news, your neighborhood starts right now.
He'll face off with an 18-year-old Republican challenger in the November elections for 41st State Assembly district seat. Democratic incumbent Chris Holden talked to CCN's Tony Meade about a few measures he's passed into law.
Voters sent Chris Holden to the State Assembly in 2012. Before that, he was a Pasadena mayor and city council member. Holden says he is very passionate about the community he grew up in and that public education is an important part of his work in the Assembly.
We used to have school resource officers, so the police officers were on the campuses where we actually got to know and have a relationship. They never dressed in uniform, but they were there. They were there also to protect us.
Holden says 7 of his proposed assembly measures have been signed into law.
We had education bills as well as job bills and environmental bills providing support to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy to make sure that the graffiti and the dumping that takes place in our hillsides and in our canyons, that those who are doing that would be penalized. There would be a stiff fee.
Holden's Assembly Bill 1912, recognizing President Obama in California textbooks, is now a law.
California Board of Education has the opportunity to include a more fuller presentation of his presidency as opposed to referring to it more as a footnote.
The Assemblyman also says he believes the minimum wage should be raised.
It's hard to provide for your family on, you know, anything less than, under $8 an hour. So we thought it was important to lift that up to $9, and then next year it'll go to $10. So we passed a bill last year that would allow for an increase in the minimum wage. There's still a lot of conversation around it. It's an important conversation that we need to have, and so I'm happy to continue to engage to find out where that right place is, because we have to make sure that we have the right balance. You know, don't want to, especially smaller businesses, put them in a difficult position.
Holden says he welcomes the challenge from the 18-year-old college student Nathaniel Sy, who is running against him in the next election, and jokes about what he was doing when he was 18. I
usually had either sports or school. It was enough to keep me busy, so I couldn't really think about running for office, certainly not for the state legislature.
In Pasadena, Tony Meade, CCN.
The Pasadena Public Health Department confirms 5 cases of West Nile virus in humans this month. The last case previously confirmed was in 2012. Although nearly 80% of those infected by West Nile have no symptoms, for others, symptoms may include fever, vomiting, body aches with some complications leading to severe disability or death. Health officials say the number of mosquitoes with the virus is at the highest levels ever in California. The health department has a checklist of maintenance items for homeowners that will help prevent West Nile mosquitoes from breeding. Some of those include empty all standing water in containers left outside, wear insect repellents containing DEET, check window and door screens for holes, report dead birds and squirrels to the West Nile virus and dead bird hotline at 877-968-2473. The public health department says they continually monitor the region looking for red flags for mosquito breeding areas. They also collaborate with the Pasadena Police Department to use their helicopters to look for stagnant pools and standing water. You can get more information at westnile.ca.gov.
Next on the Morning Buzz, we are going to talk about the Adrian Peterson controversy and if it was spanking or beating and what's acceptable when it comes to disciplining kids. But first, CCN Sunrise's Andy Rocco was out there talking to some of you locally to find out your thoughts on this.
Hello everyone, I'm Andy Rocco and we're here on the streets of Pasadena to get your thoughts on the Adrian Peterson case.
Personally, if you told anyone, you hit someone with a stick, it's very severe, and to do that, to a child, that's honestly that's unacceptable because it's a child, nevertheless. And when you have to use a stick, that means you're using, you're applying excessive force than you already need to.
I think that he should definitely be disciplined because he's a public figure that so many people look up to.
Well, I think he was just taking it to the extreme, and that's absolutely not acceptable.
Well, whipping a kid with a stick, that's just going to make kids resent you. Using a belt with the metal end. I've seen, when I was growing up, I had friends whose parents would whip them with belts with the metal end, and it was always horrific to me. You don't need to do that to a kid.
That's his personal business, that's his personal family, and it shouldn't be mixed up with his career.
My mother whooped us. There were 6 of us. I got whooped, and I turned out okay. And so I think that when the state starts to get involved with saying what's abuse and what's not abuse, it's like they need to pretty much look at everything, because if he was disciplining his child for something or whatever, then they weren't there. They can't say that it was child abuse.
Some felt Adrian Peterson overstepped his boundaries in disciplining his child, and that the NFL may need to do more disciplining of their own. In Pasadena, Andy Rocco, CCN.
And now for the Morning Buzz, we continue the conversation about Adrian Peterson's story. Everyone's got their take, from Donald Trump to Charles Barkley. And now comedian and local celebrity Bill Cott, whom many of you have seen on the Disney Channel, joins us for this debate.
We certainly got to take ourselves, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Bill, there's this friend of mine writes for Playboy.com, and he created this cheat sheet for the NFL, and that I really think they should fold up and put in their helmets, because it tells about who NFL players can hit and cannot hit. You can hit, you can hit the sack, but don't hit kids. Don't hit dogs. I mean, is it really that complicated?
Okay, so I understand the humor behind all that, but I think it's really unfair to have one person's mistakes reflect a whole organization like the NFL. I mean, I understand where it's all joking, but let's cut it at that. It's an isolated situation dealing with an NFL player.
Yeah. People ask me how I feel about this, and I just have the same response. Beats me. I actually, when you were talking about that Playboy article that people should fold it up and put in, most of the NFL players aren't putting articles from Playboy.com under their helmet.
Well, no, not the articles. That's true.
That's the problem. It's the locker room mentality. All right. Obviously, I wasn't the pal of every jock in high school. I don't watch football myself. I honestly don't. I don't like the culture that football creates. I'm just going to put that out there.
Well, honestly, it's not just an isolated case. At this point, there are a number of NFL players involved with domestic violence cases.
There's been 2 so far.
There was just another one just recently, and it's not even about violence as far as hitting someone. It's the gun violence involved, and I don't know if they're taking enough.
So I mean, is what's being stated here that playing a physical sport like football is going to make you a more violent person?
Well, if they can't keep it on the field, yeah.
I don't know about that.
I think if you spend 6 of your 12 months out of the year focusing on becoming a more violent, aggressive person, you're going to become a more
but as a
violent,
person, you're
aggressive
able to compartmentalize and kind of manage your emotions, and you know what.
Well, these guys are doing a great job of managing their emotions.
exactly.
Again, we're talking about a league of
They're not
thousands
isolated
of people.
incidents, though.
We're talking about a league of thousands of people.
Let's bring us back to the real debate, though, about spanking or beating, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the real debate here, because there's such a culture of people who are okay with spanking, and I understand. I was experienced spanking, but at some point, we have to realize that we have to break the cycle, and it's not working here. I mean,
but who are we to take a moral high ground and tell somebody how they're supposed to raise their kids? I mean, if somebody employs a more physical form of discipline on their child, I mean, within reason, and I'm by no means condoning what Adrian Peterson did. I saw the pictures, felt like they're horrendous, but I think it's a problem if you start to demonize everybody that will spank their kids.
You gotta demonize everybody who will beat
I
their
don't
child.
think so.
Will
There's
beat
a
their
difference between
child.
spanking your child.
Of course, I'm not advocating beating your
hand
child.
right on the buttock
But-
and pulling out a switch
Okay,
and
but
hitting
that's
their naked
inevitably
behind.
what's going to happen, though.
But even Adrian Peterson's mother said at any point, if a parent is into spanking and spanking their kid, I know for experience, when I want to spank my kid, when I want to pull the Homer Simpson and really choke that guy, it's because I've lost it. I want to. I'm so angry that I want to inflict harm on him, and that's why I choose not to spank. Because at some point,
that's your
people
choice.
will go overboard, and that happens, and that's happened in this case. I don't believe Adrian Peterson is a bad guy. He's a good guy. I think he's a good parent. I think he intended. Don't think he intended to do harm, but the kid had blood on him. I mean, at that point,
when you cause your child to bleed, that's when it crosses
Off
into
to a
problem
lighter
category.
note, speaking of disciplining, there are flight attendants who want to teach bad passengers a lesson. There's a website documenting all the awful things people do on flights. Now, I was shocked. I mean, this goes beyond the realm of decent courtesy to your fellow passengers.
Yeah.
Some pretty, I don't want to get a little casual here, but a little gnarly. Some gnarly things I saw.
Yeah, I saw some bare feet stuck between
A lot
airline seats.
of
that.
a lot of indiscretions made with feet, right?
I don't think ahead and just wear some nice loafers or something like that when they get on a flight, rather than
you
having
can't
to.
put your feet at someone's head. Like,
You
that's
can't.
just not acceptable. You can't potty train your kid in the middle of the aisle. Not acceptable.
It's amazing to me what people think. These people think they can get away with on a commercial flight.
But I want to start a website that shames the airlines. I want to have like a close-up on my watch about how long I've been sitting on the tarmac, or how lousy the food was if I was in.
Or how long you had to
You
spend
got
with
food?
TSA.
When did that happen?
When you travel first class.
Oh, okay.
You know how it goes.
Back there, we're not getting any food. Maybe throw in some peanuts, like elephants. But yeah, absolutely. You know, the airlines aren't doing a really good job. I don't know if they're the ones that should be shaming us, but you know, these passengers out there, I don't know.
We're all accountable.
Yeah. When you make your passengers bleed, that's when you've gone too far.
Exactly. Well, thanks for being here again,
Thank
Bill.
you.
We'll have you a little bit later
we'll see you very shortly.
in
Looking
the second
forward to
half
it.
hour. Up next, local real estate broker Allen Shay tells us about the mortgage fraud charges against him that were recently dropped.
Dad's home!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Get your ass out. You're not in here. Yes, I am. Move! Give it to him hard! No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help, but don't know how.
Oh,
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Allen Shay and a man he helped get more than $1 million in home loans from Bank of America and Countrywide were recently arrested on mortgage fraud charges. The charges have now been dropped, and Allen Shay is here to tell us all about it. Thanks for joining us, Allen.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I thank your viewers here in Pasadena.
Yeah.
This is
We understand it's been a little bit of a trying period for you. Now, you're somebody who's very visible in the community, especially with your work in the Northwest Commission.
Correct.
So, how have these, when these charges were brought against you, how have they kind of affected your dealings with people in the community?
Well, they've affected it extremely. I mean, I've had where my neighbors have passed out flyers to make other neighbors aware that I was arrested, and the kind of character that it presented or put me in a certain light, to say it nicely. And these things have actually turned my whole life upside down. Business-wise, clients left my business, people who felt uncomfortable about dealing with me. All these things surface as a result of putting this type of information out without doing the due diligence that the Sheriff Department should have done, and certainly in light of what they use for evidence. The only evidence that were used were faxes from my office, where I had an agent in my office who sent over and opened up an escrow for a client who at the time had a listing with my office, a rental property.
And that would explain the prosecution's main claim against you, is that these faxes were sent from your office, and you're saying that you had an agent that also had access to your fax, correct?
Well, it was an agent who sent over the information to open it up, and then the client subsequently came back to me and asked me for a loan of approximately $30,000 because he's one of my investor clients, and he had borrowed over $100,000 from me in the past. Yes.
Now, did you know, the charges against you have been dropped, but against Mr. Turner, they haven't yet.
Correct.
He's still seeking his arraignment, and the judge didn't want to overturn the charges just yet. Correct.
Correct. They didn't want to drop his charges.
Did you suspect anything as far as the documents that you received from him?
I didn't receive any documents.
As far as the fraudulent documents,
I never received any documents.
You didn't see those.
What was
my role?
No. Like, did you know Mr. Turner before all this came on? Like, what is the nature of your relationship with him?
I've known Mr. Turner since he was 10.
Okay.
Here in Pasadena, we have a small community. Everybody knows everybody. We grew up together. He lived around the corner. I did one transaction. This 05 transaction was my first transaction with Mr. Turner. And it was a $1.2 million home. He's a very intelligent young man. He has a BA in accounting from, I believe, Southern University. And he's a sharp guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And he was a investor, as well as when I met him, he was working for a company. I didn't know the name of it. And he put down a significant down payment, 20%. So the financing went directly through Countrywide. So those are the things that made it quite questionable why the officer didn't understand those elements. But to me, the officer clearly wanted to earn some stripes, make a name for himself. Everyone that I talked to, from judges to lawyers, indicated that they didn't see any reason for him to arrest me. He didn't arrest Jeff Gleason, who's the loan broker from Countrywide. Countrywide had, in 07, collapsed, and no one from Countrywide was investigated directly and brought up for criminal charges. And this right here, this particular case, set a precedent that the only ones who was arrested were Eddie and myself in relationship to a Countrywide loan.
Well, I know that you've talked about in newspapers and said you've kind of compared this situation to the Michael Brown case, and you really felt that this, really had a racism component. What do you intend to do now that the charges have been dropped?
Well, as a city commissioner, my objective has always been the love of Pasadena and to make sure that we as a city set forth a model example of how to deal with these kind of issues. I don't need to put out that it was anything compared to Ferguson, nor did I make statements that were put in there by Star News. Again, they made a sensationalism saying that
so you didn't make
No, I didn't. I never called the officer racist. Otherwise, you can look on my Facebook and see what I did, because I rebutted that. Also, with the Weekly, they just put out theirs, and again, they made statements that the evidence wasn't enough evidence. There was no evidence. The evidence that was used was basically an open up of an escrow fax, which is standard for realtors, And
the judge seemed very clear that there
right,
was
so,
nothing there.
Right. So my issue with the media is they over sensationalize, and that could place a bad light on
That's why
things.
we have you here,
Well,
because
thank
we
you.
wanted to hear from you directly on how you feel about this. Obviously, you know, we understand when these kinds of charges are brought against you, how much this would have turned your life upside down. So we wish you the best
coming in.
as you try to put it together.
Well,
Thanks for being here.
And thank Pasadena and your viewers.
Okay, great.
Retirement gives seniors a chance to finally see the world.
Mary Winters is here to talk to Senior Travels in her Senior Solutions segment. Next.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Retirement gives seniors the opportunity to travel the world.
In her Senior Solutions segment, Mary Winters plays travel agent to talk about the best destinations for older folks.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Well, I don't have a great voice, but I am really excited about the fact that the kids are back in school, and that means as a senior, you have many opportunities to travel at a discount because everybody else is doing something else. So let's look at the health behind your travel. Make sure that you have plenty of medication with you or ordered ahead of time so that you have enough to take on your trip with you. Talk to your doctor if you have a certain condition that you're worried about or have a condition that you should be talking about before you travel and make your plans. Discuss that with your doctor. And if you need special accommodations for a wheelchair or walker, there are all kinds of special arrangements that can be handled for you. So what kind of length of time do you want to spend on your trip? Is it for a weekend, a week, a month? How would you like to travel and with who? Would you like to go by yourself? Are you going with a spouse or a group travel? What type of travel would you like to do? Are you going on a plane, train, automobile, or how about a cruise? There's some wonderful river cruises now. And just people are enjoying those for a week's period of time or for a month. The best thing to do really is to talk to a travel agent. Believe it or not, they still exist, and they can sit down and kind of create your dream vacation with you. And also, if you need those special accommodations, they can set those up ahead of time for you. Also, companies like Premier World Discovery, they have wonderful guided tours. So if you actually want to go by yourself and meet with other people and have an opportunity to just be on a trip where everything's planned for you, it's a fantastic opportunity. I also want you to travel safely. So let's make sure that you stay with your luggage, that you don't travel with too many credit cards. And one extra little tip is travel with a flashlight. It comes in handy if you ever get caught off guard and you're in the dark, or you just need that for a little extra light for reading. So make sure that you travel safe and you travel healthy. Back to you, Sehnita and Paulo.
Thank you, Mary. About 3 times a year, one of our own dresses at... I want to do my Davy Crockett line. Can I?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
That was good. They liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about her voice.
2, 1.
Thank you, Mary. About 3 times a year, one of our own does his best Davy Crockett and heads for the mountains.
CCN Sunrise cameraman Scott Turner tells us about the Mountain Man Rendezvous next.
I wish I was in school. If only I had a math test today. I'll stay after class.
I'll clean the chalkboard.
I wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help.
Jimmy can't sing, and Tommy can't dance, so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
He's quite the outdoorsman, and sometimes our own Scott Turner dresses up and joins the Mountain Man Rendezvous about 3 times a year.
He's brought us some pictures from a couple of places the fur trappers hold their parties. Scott joins us now. This is the 1700s to 1840s, correct? Very specific time period.
1700 to 1840s, that's correct. That was the time of the mountain man, the fur trade. They'd go up into the mountains, like the Rocky Mountains, the Appalachians, and up north. They would trap the fur in the wintertime. There was a big demand for fur, beaver pelts, mink.
Is that his little beaver? Oh,
that's a mink.
Oh, very cool.
So they would trap them. They'd make their cabins along streams and rivers where the animals run, and they would set traps this way, that way, and the other way. And then the next morning they'd go out and check their trap lines.
And just a side note, for this particular era, the fur trapping was a major part of the economy in these days,
yeah. There was a big demand for it on the East Coast and in Europe. Coonskin caps, beaver hats, jackets, and whatnot.
So during these things, the rendezvous, do you catch your own food then? Are you trapping and catching?
Yes. They would trap and they would use the meat for their own food. When they got all their furs and everything ready and dried, they would take them down, and that's where the rendezvous came in. They would go down to a fort, and they would sell their furs for more equipment, more gunpowder for their guns, more food, beef jerky, and other supplies that they could take back in the mountains.
So that's what you guys are all coming together now to do that rendezvous.
To represent that, kind of like a reenactment. It's open to the public. We have it at a Boy Scout camp in Big Bear. That particular one is a Holcomb Valley Scout Ranch, and it's run by the Bighorn Mountain Man Club. And they do it every year around the end of August.
So you dress up in your period wear, I see. Is that a snee? Is that what that's called down there?
Snee.
No, this. This is my knife. This actually one of the guys up there, his camp name is Four Bears. He made that for me.
Four Bears. What's your camp name?
I don't have one yet. It's usually when you do something. Usually when you do something wrong or mess up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I haven't got one yet.
There's a whole rank and file system. Well, let me ask you this: be honest. How long do you think you could survive living as a mountain man for real? A real fur trapper.
I just recently spent about 4 days up in the Azusa Canyon.
Can you do it for a year?
A year, if I had the right equipment.
Can you go McCandless, like into the wild?
I could probably do it for a month, easy.
Okay. Now, you have your bow and arrow here, set here, but you are also shooting muzzle guns, is that?
Yeah, muzzle loading guns.
Which are kind of like muskets?
Muskets, They have 2 different types. One is a flintlock, and one is called a percussion. They have a range. They have a bow and arrow range. They have the musket range. They have a tomahawk range.
How accurate are you with these muzzle guns?
Actually, I'm pretty good. At about 50 yards, I was getting in an area about that big, and I hit a pine cone at about 50 yards.
All right. Were you aiming for the pine cone?
Yes, I was aiming for the pine cone, yeah.
I was aiming for the pine cone.
The primitive bow and arrow, that's a little bit, you can't aim that as well as a gun. That's more by feel.
How quickly can you load it?
The muzzle loader, that takes me about a minute.
Is that average?
That's actually fairly decent.
Okay, well.
Great. Well, thanks for bringing all this stuff in.
Man of many talents.
Thank you for
back
having
to
me.
camera with you, huh?
Yes, that's
We're
it.
going to have to get a shot with your full outfit.
Yeah. Pictures are for sale after the show.
Okay. Thanks for being here, Scott.
Thanks. A huge special event is coming to the San Gabriel Valley. We'll tell you all about it.
And a little later, Courtney Collins with Little June Bugs shows us how to create an autumn wreath. Coming up next in our next half hour.
So you see, son, good manners are important.
Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If the door's locked, knock first, don't burp, don't swear, don't stare, don't use bad language, or talk with your mouth full, keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give your seat up to anybody who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you want to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
Good talk.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund Reading.
Why do you not get me?
I do. This is what it feels like for kids with learning and attention issues. Redirecting to understood.org.
And now, from Pasadena, it's CCN Sunrise with Sehnita Joshua Mattison, Paulo Alejandria, the Crown City News team, and the CCN Sunrise segment stars. It's time to wake up San Gabriel Valley with CCN Sunrise.
We're back with our second half hour of CCN Sunrise. I'm Sehnita Joshua Mattison.
And I'm Paulo Alejandria.
So, Paulo, there are some exciting changes happening here
Adjustments.
at CCN.
I would say adjustments.
Well,
yeah.
it's really exciting because our news team is really growing, and so we are going to be changing some things around. You're going to be heading up our news division because, you know, you've just been an excellent reporter. I don't know if people have seen some of the reports that you've put out there, but you haven't had a chance to do those reports.
Not this year, but I'm very, very happy to get back on the saddle. I had a little bit of an experience with that with the doing the heat wave story, so it was a little bit of rough coming back, but working off the rust and putting out the stories that the people in San Gabriel Valley should know and need to know. And
we really needed you out there, and then you're also going to be the face of our news division.
I don't know about that, but I will be anchoring the news. I'll try my best to fill that duty, especially after the last person that headed up Crown City News did such a good job. Wink, wink.
Well, we're going to continue our team. I'm a little sad that things are going to be changing here. I won't have you right here next to me, but our team is going to be solid still.
Yeah.
And
it was a great experience, and it was a pleasure serving next to you. Definitely did learn a lot.
We're still here together. Good luck to you. And with that, we're going to take a look at some of the news headlines happening right here in the San Gabriel Valley.
And now, CCN, Crown City News. Your news, your neighborhood starts right now.
Mayor Bill Bogard from Pasadena joined organizers of the Special Olympics to announce Pasadena as the next year's location for these World Games. CCN's Tony Mead has the story.
Hi everybody, I'm Tony Mead. Mayor Bill Bogard, along with other council members, announced that Pasadena will host athletes for the World Special Olympics.
Pasadena is celebrating because we're welcoming the Special Olympics World Games 2015 to our community.
Along with city officials, members of the Special Olympics World Games Los Angeles 2015 and Special Olympics Southern California stood on the steps of City Hall to make their formal announcement. The city of Pasadena will host the Special Olympics World Games July 25th through August 2nd, 2015. Mayor Bogard opened up the ceremony, handing over a ceremonial key to the city. 3 days before the games begin, the city will hold a host town program, welcoming and celebrating athletes from around the world.
Out recruiting different host towns so that we can have the different delegations that come from 177 countries be hosted by different towns between San Luis Obispo and San Diego for a couple days to get their bodies acclimated to Southern California before we throw them into competitions.
The 2015 games will feature 25 competition sports in aquatics, gymnastics, track and field, basketball, football, and many other summer sports involving athletes from 170 nations. Pasadena Police will hold fundraisers to support the event.
Well, today, the proceeds from police officers from Pasadena Police Department are going to be serving food at Earth Cafe starting from 5 to 9 p.m. tonight, and all of the tips that they receive will be donated to the World Games and the athletes to help put on this event.
The city will introduce the athletes to community members and officials to familiarize the athletes to Pasadena's culture and activities. In Pasadena, Tony Mead, CCN.
The heat was on this past week, and the San Gabriel Valley sure felt the record-breaking temperatures. Here in Pasadena, the heat index reached a staggering 120 degrees this past Monday and Tuesday, the peak days of the heat wave. Pasadena Fire Department Lisa Derderian says there were no fatalities reported because of the extreme heat, But the fire department responded to several complaints of dizziness and fatigue. Akilah Gibbs, executive director of the Pasadena Senior Center, which serves as a cooling center, says seniors need to be extra careful in extreme heat.
We really stress that seniors should hydrate as much as possible, stay cool as much as possible. If you do have to come out, don't exert yourself.
It's time for the Morning Buzz. Bill Cott, local comedian who you've seen in the Disney Channel and in movies, is here to talk about fellow actor Danielle Watts and the stir her PDA caused this week. Quite a thing, huh?
Yeah, that never happened when Danielle Watts and I were in a car together.
Yeah, it just wasn't that interesting.
It's not an issue.
Well, yeah, TMZ released this picture of her, door open. It looks like she's straddling. There were some other descriptions given of what was going on in the car, but witnesses said they did find, they said her breasts were exposed.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what happened, but you know, they did say that people actually asked her to stop, and I don't know what happened from
And
there.
it's taken it on a life of its own, because now we're talking race again. The race car is played out. So, I mean, why don't I have you riff on that for a minute?
You want to riff on race?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I mean, as far as this case is concerned.
First, my thoughts are, I don't think it's part of the discussion. I think when you have sex in a public place, it doesn't matter what your background is.
We don't know if they had sex. I mean, PDA was the term used, and she did say she was fully clothed.
There are accounts from people who are watching from an office building across the street. That's pretty obvious. You know, if it's one thing if like the original story, it sounded like she was kissing her husband goodbye, and she was like, you know, dragged away in chains or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and I seem to remember when I first heard it, it sounded maybe like heavy petting out in public.
Yeah. So I don't think necessarily she's trying to play the race card. I think maybe her lawyer might be.
Well, no, she did talk about the race card. She pulled it up of that's why I'm being stopped. You know, there was a conversation. It was her boyfriend, and they said, you know, since they started dating, they're an interracial couple, that they have been stopped or, you know, things accosted basically on 3 different occasions.
I'm sure that happens. You know.
And so for her to have the police come, she said her father has run into similar situations, and as an African American, I can only assume that, you know, when the police comes up to you and you don't think you're doing anything wrong, it is just like, oh my gosh, like
okay,
why?
But in all fairness, you do, if a policeman asks for your ID and you're not doing anything, it is in your best interest to cooperate and not put up a fight if you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, you don't need to.
So I think that's why this whole thing kind of took it on a life of its own.
But if she wants to make a stand and say, you can't just say, you know, that I'm doing something wrong unless you have.
I think complying with a police officer is reasonable.
Yeah. I think in this circumstance it is. That, you know, I've heard recently, you know, in light of a lot of recent events, that people say, well, whatever a police officer does, you should comply and then sort it out later. Well, you know, how do you get your dignity back later? You know?
Well, absolutely.
But I think your dignity happens when you take your bra off in public in a car with your husband. You know, that's where dignity ends.
And that's what the witnesses are saying. We don't know exactly what happened. I mean, TMZ did release that picture, but we don't know exactly.
Let's talk about the pride of Ireland, the band U2. Do you like U2?
What's that? Do I like U2? You know,
I love U2.
When I found out that they were flooding everyone's YouTube, iTunes with a new U2 album, I was upset.
Okay,
I've
now
never been a
why?
fan of U2. I don't want it on my iTunes.
You don't want to push down your throat.
I have 2 albums on my YouTunes. That on iTunes.
Joshua Tree.
That's it.
What do you have? What 2
I have
albums?
Jake Bugg's initial CD, and then I have. Oh gosh.
Maybe
I don't even know.
iTunes is
I don't even use iTunes. I use Spotify.
Here.
I mean, yeah, I can kind of see that.
If iTunes wants to expand my horizons, they cannot try to expand my horizons with a band that was irrelevant as of about 15 years ago.
You know what? They have constantly been putting out great albums. I was one of those who were, you know, when Octung Baby and Pop and all that came out, I was the first one screaming sellouts and all that. But then I actually stopped and listened to the music, and I was like, oh, actually, this is awesome music. They decided to make a huge change. I didn't love the fly glasses, but the music was solid, and that's what's happening here.
Yeah, and you know, definitely this move they made with Apple is getting their share of it's getting its share of criticism from.
It's also getting its share of publicity, us included.
Absolutely, that's where there's a line around.
When I first heard that they were releasing a thing of U2, all I could think of was that that idea was made by a bunch of computer programmers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know, Sharon Osbourne is calling them out and saying they're sellouts, but you know, Sharon Osbourne did a reality show, and she wanted to
she's
talk
the
to
last
us,
person.
And I didn't
about
see
that.
anything on her tweets that had anything to do with U2's music. But moving on, something interesting happened out in the UK. It was almost a 50-50 split on whether or not Scotland.
Yeah.
I'm still on U2.
Yeah.
Scotland should, you know, be independent of the United
It was kind
Kingdom.
of a far from a 50-50.
It was 45-50. It's pretty close.
No, it was about a 10% difference, and that's pretty huge. It was pretty decisive.
Really? According to the BBC, they thought it was pretty down
No,
the
most
middle.
people said it's pretty decisive.
I think they were trying to be gracious.
Exactly.
I think it was an example of British gracefulness.
But yes, I mean, we should be jealous as a democracy to have that kind of turnout. They're having, you know, above 80%. They were saying in Glasgow, oh, well, they had low turnout there at 75%. I mean, this is pretty huge. I know, they don't have the population we do, but to get that kind of turnout.
But
yeah, I said 85 and then 75 in Glasgow.
Okay.
All right, but you know, to get that kind of turnout is pretty amazing, and I think they've spoken. But I think the UK really needs to listen to the other a huge percentage of people who did want to see.
Yeah, because from what I understand, this issue might be coming up in the next 15 to 20 years. So it's quelled for now with this generation, but I think Prime Minister Cameron's expecting that it's not an issue that's going to be settled.
Yeah, overall, I think we can be thankful that nobody can understand what people from Scotland are saying.
It's a giant Snatch movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what language they spoke, but I know I can't understand it. Well, thanks for being here, Bill.
Thanks for
and
having
we'll
me.
have you back again. Well, those who waited a little longer than most might have a tougher time merging their finances.
Steve Huntley with Trilogy Financial talks about some of the biggest money challenges for couples marrying later. Don't go away.
Okay, Simon, what do people wear?
Clothes.
That's right, so it's important to learn how to dress yourself. Here's how it's done. Shirt, underwear, pants, socks, shoes. Underwear, always first, name tag on the back. Then pants and shirt. Go ahead and put this on. Now with the shirt, you want to make sure the first button's right or you have to start all over again, okay? Socks left on left, right on right. Tying the shoes, we're gonna take the laces, we're gonna cross them over, we're gonna turn around where the bunny goes down in the hole, pull it tight, and bunny ears. Got it?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Many couples are waiting to get married in their 30s or later, which often means more financial baggage. Steve Huntley with Trilogy Financial helps unpack some of those challenges. Lots of folks want that fancy wedding, but then when it comes time for the bill, not so much fun.
Yeah.
Is that one of the main things that just sets them on the wrong course?
Yeah, people, at least in my practice, I've noticed that people are older. In other words, instead of the model being in their early 20s, now they're getting married maybe in their early to mid 30s. So all the baggage, all the debt that goes with it, especially the school debt or credit card debt.
You've had some time to get into a little bit of trouble.
Right, yeah.
And they're taking that well into their mid 30s and they're bringing that baggage in with them.
That's right, and you're seeing a lot of situations where you have what's called hidden debt, where you get married and suddenly your wife comes to you and says, I have $10,000 worth of credit card debt that I never forgot to tell you.
Love you, honey.
Love you. Love you a lot.
That's not a great date conversation.
Yeah,
so they're not
yeah.
doing that then, right?
Theoretically, if you do, decide to get married in your mid-30s, aren't you a little bit more stable financially? Theoretically, like you're supposed to be a little more responsible with your money.
You are prepared for life. You have gone through school. You have gone through like sometimes like a graduate program or
And
something
have a
like
steady career
that.
at that
You've got a
point.
job. And now you're ready to get married.
But that student loan debt is what kills a lot of people.
The student loan debt is this huge, massive, pressing weight on the economy. It's $1.2 trillion. It's the biggest debt in the United States. Right
And usually people aren't getting the jobs that, unless you're going to be a lawyer that, you're going to
really make
pay
a significant dent into that debt.
Yeah. So they spend their time, when they're ready to buy a house or they're ready to invest in their future retirement, they got to deal with this debt, because student debt does not go away.
Well, speaking of retirement, and if you're an older couple and you're going to have kids later, are you going to have enough time to save for retirement, pay for kids' colleges? I mean, is
It's
that
a lot.
big stress?
You're slicing up a good 12, 13 years there.
Yeah.
Of saving.
So when you're in your mid-30s, usually the scenario is you'd have another 30, 35 years. The magic numbers always seems to be 65. So what happens is you have multiple things. You have to put a kid through college, which is extremely expensive. You want to retire, maybe you want to start a new business or something like that. You have to prioritize your goal. You can only do so much,
So what's your first step in advising these couples?
Find out what you want. Find out what do you want. I mean, that's a lot of my job, is to find out what people want, where their problems are, and then build a plan around what they want, where their goals are.
And that's a pretty lengthy discussion, consultation.
It is.
And probably like people who have, completely different ideas of what they might have wanted.
Yeah, men and women have, nothing personal, but they do. They have completely different ideas on what money is, what they want, how it should be spent, and what debt is, that type of thing. Very different.
So, for people who are seeking some kind of financial plan, there are a lot of stuff online. Is that a good place to start, going online?
Online is information overload. There's so much out there. People telling you should buy the stock, or you should do this, or you should do that. It really comes down to dealing with, I'm a professional, so I've dealt with this for almost 20 years. It's just sitting down with a person and trying to figure out as an individual. The internet is more like one size fits all. You buy my stock, you buy my mutual fund.
So it would be really beneficial to have a personal consultation.
Yeah. So
you have more of a tailored solution.
Because you have to understand what people really, what they're thinking, what they really want in life.
Thanks so much, Steve, for being here.
Thank you.
Stay fit right from the comfort of your own living room.
Fit and Beautiful segment star Loa Blasucci joins us next.
That's low. That's low. Look, he's blushing. Seriously.
If I got to go to college, oh my goodness. I like discovering new things. You get to see what works for you and what doesn't. That helps you evolve as a person. You get to make like a supernova of skill or talent or whatever it is. I've always wanted to go to college. I just feel like that's my destiny. My name is Queen, and I am your dividend.
I wish I was in school. If only I had a math test today. I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help. A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
Loa's back.
And she brought back her football to show us what to do with lower back pain at home.
Sehnita, you guys have missed me, haven't you? Oh, I know you have. I know you have. So today I'm talking about something that affects so many people. I'm going to talk about back pain. This thing has got way too much control in many of our lives. $70 billion a year is spent on managing back pain. That's a whole lot of dinero. So, number one cause of missed work days, let's talk about that a little bit. I want to give you today an exercise for those of you who don't even like exercise. Because here's the thing, everybody's sitting way too much. That's compression on the spine, right? That's way too much chair time, but we all have it. Not much you can do about it if you're at your computer or desk or whatever. So here's the thing, simple, simple, easy. All you gotta do is trade your chair. I know that desk chair that slides, trade it for this guy. And you probably have one in your closet. We've talked about that. You have one. Just get it out. You're gonna sit on it. So here's the thing. You remember, this is stability equipment. So you gotta plant your feet, because if you don't, you got all kinds of ways that things can happen. But when you're on this correctly, sitting down, feet spread apart, just about the width of your hip bones. So look down, think where your hip bones are, not the width of your rear end. It's a whole different deal for some of us. So hip bones right about here. Plant those feet and then lift up out of the ball. So what's going on here, even any movement that you do, everything in that spinal corset has got to stabilize you. It's holding you in place. So even if you're at the computer, you're at your desk, you're sitting wherever in your office, you're doing little exercises just to keep you upright and to keep you from slipping off that you don't even know about. It's awesome. So you can be exercising. It's the greatest kind of multitasking. You don't even think about exercising, but it's a beautiful thing. So remember, get tall right here, plant the feet, lift up tall. Then when you need a break, you just slide down, open up the hands, lift up the tail, and just release the arms out. Stretch out the upper part of the back. Plant the feet, walk back, and there you are again, sitting up tall. Simple, beautiful, you have one of these. And I'll see you next time. You guys keep missing me, okay? Love you. Bye. Have a great day, Pasadena.
We don't want to miss you. We want to have you here. And I think we should do a whole show just sitting on those balls.
Yes, let's do it. I got that.
That sounds good.
I got you.
It'll definitely engage our core, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Well, we're getting a little crafty on the set.
Courtney Collins with Little June Bug shows us how to make an autumn wreath next.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again? Yep. Mix beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it? Got it. Throw in the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
So, I got this new family, and I don't know what it is about this one, but she can't seem to put down that toy all day long. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, and she even talks to it. She talks to that more than she talks to him. What's up, bro? Nice shirt. Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Pretty much a good day for me would be people leaving their hands off of me. I'm always called names. Everywhere that I go, there's always someone calling me names, calling me gay. I've been choked, thrown up against a wall, punched. Nobody's ever tried to help me.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout.
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Cheers. Take time to be a dad today.
They help little ones get in touch with their imaginations using crafts, and today, Little Junebug's creative director, Courtney Collins, helps us do the same. What are we making today?
We are going to make wreaths for a classroom or for your door. You can make them for holiday, but with back to school, I thought we'd do like a fun, bright.
Well, I'm wreathy excited.
Yeah, okay.
This is perfect for autumn, and just like you can decorate all year long, basically.
Exactly. It can be done with any colors, any accessories. Are you guys ready?
So how do we get started?
Ready as ever.
Okay. Well, to start for at home, what you would do is you would get a piece of cardboard. I already had a circular one, but you would cut a shape, and then trace a circle in the middle. Cut that out, and what you would be left with.
So you have like different size bowls you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And you can just use a cardboard box.
Okay.
Or you can go to the store and buy a foam wreath, but we're talking.
Where's the craftiness?
Exactly,
in that, right?
exactly. Okay, so then next you're gonna pick out what kind of yarn you like. This part does take a while, so I kind of helped you guys and got it started.
Yeah, it would take you hours to decide. You've got the male colors going on there.
Yes, it does give you a good arm workout, and this is a good craft to do with kids too.
Now, is there a technique kind of have this like?
Exactly.
No,
yes, just go through the hole and wrap around.
The technique of no technique.
The only thing you want to do is make sure that there is no white showing or cardboard, because you want to make it look, really put together. So you can pull it tight.
And how do you make it smooth at the end here?
You can just kind of move it around.
Okay. And I know you usually
you're almost
do.
there.
I got excited. You usually use a hot glue gun.
I do, but tacky glue works really well.
It works really well
with a little stick or a paintbrush.
Okay.
So once you get
proper adhesive.
Okay, so we got a little bit of
we got tangled up here.
So just pull it tight, and then when you get to the part where you feel like you're done. And don't worry, because you can always stick buttons and stuff over
That's
whatever
my plan.
bumps you don't like.
Okay. Embellishment is always good.
Exactly. Okay, so on your back side, you're going to trim it up.
Okay.
And put a little bit of glue to seal it.
Okay, so I just do I cut it first or should I?
Yeah, you would cut it.
Okay.
And then you can kind of tuck it and just stick a little bit of glue under there.
Okay. Okay.
How you doing?
I think you're good.
All right,
cool.
I think you could trim it up and close it.
Okay. This is quite sticky.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the longer you leave tacky glue out to get a little bit of air, the stickier it gets.
Back in art class, they used to show my pieces of work as examples of what not to
I don't believe that.
I bet you have creative skills.
I think everybody's crafty. You just have to practice.
The thing is, it's just fun. And the thing is, I found you. We were doing a staycation downtown.
Yeah.
And I found you at the Grand Central Market. You had a little pop-up booth there.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. My husband and my son and I stopped there, and all of us were, my husband was like putting together a little robot.
Yeah.
We were all drawing it, putting it together. It was such a cool thing, and I was so excited to learn that you're right in Pasadena.
Yes, we are. We actually just moved. We're now on Fair Oaks, and all right. Well,
okay, now
all right.
I got a little glue happy here.
That's okay, because you
I
know
didn't
what?
even get to that stage yet.
All right.
I used to love getting the glue off my fingers. Maybe that's why I put extra.
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
So for you, now we have. I cut out some felt flower petals. You don't have to do that. But I assorted some buttons for you. So I love to use buttons on everything.
But they're color coordinated. I love it.
Yes. So you can decorate however you want. Use your imagination.
This is fun. Do you find men like doing these things? Like they secretly kind of like it?
Oh yeah, dads especially.
This is fun.
My husband, he's like, I'm doing it for my son.
Yeah.
But he got a little involved. I think
totally. Especially dads. I noticed that.
Let me see here. Okay, so it can come off the edge a little.
Exactly.
That's fine.
And then because I think we've got to get going, the next thing you're going to do is I gave you each a piece of felt that you're going to glue together like this and put on the back of your wreath so it hangs up.
This is getting uglier by the minute.
You're fine. And so when it's all done, this is what it can look like.
That's what it
didn't
should
I do
look
such
like.
a great job here?
What?
You got?
You like
did
it?
Such a great job.
Look at your final product.
Well, let's see. No.
That's mine.
No,
All right.
this
Well,
is
that's
mine.
it for this show, and we'd like to thank all of our sponsors for supporting our show.
Big thanks also to Bill Cott, Allen Shay, Scott Turner, and Steve Huntley, and Courtney Collins for
Thanks
being
for being
here.
here. My
Thanks
pleasure.
also to our crew, especially to you out there watching us. See you next time.